up? Hello, hello, hello. This is the one and only African superstar. Once again, Happy New Year. We're still in the, first week or so of the new year 2026. Yes. And I want to talk about this topic. This is kind of a twofold topic. The first topic is you don't have the time that you think that you have, and also it's not going to work out for everyone coming to Africa. Everyone coming to Africa is not going to have a success story. So today we're going to talk about that. Big shout out to the African superstar family, guys. If I see you in the room, do the needful, greet me, say hello. I see some of you coming in there, so I want to see you in the chat room. Yes, yes, yes. Hello, guys. It's me, one and only. Please forgive me for my absence. I have not been here on social media. What's up, Emmanuel? You're the first one in the chat room. I appreciate you. Big shout outs to the African superstar family. Yes, guys, please make your presence be known. This is kind of a twofold topic. A lot going on. So I want to talk about things that are going on. The first topic I want to talk about is you don't have the time that you think that you have. Today, unfortunately, I spent the majority of my time at a very large funeral for a daughter of a close family friend of mine back in Ohio. Mr. John, very close family friend of my mother and in our family, lost his 47-year-old daughter named Hannah. So today I saw a lot of people that were in town from Columbus. This young lady was very active in her community, in her church. She was a hairdresser. From what I deduced, she was just a very bubbly, very vibrant young lady. And unfortunately, her time came so quickly. 47 years old. And it was especially tragic because a part of her story is she's been married. She was married for over 10 years, I believe. I think they said 10 to 14 years, and was trying to, conceive. And in 2023, she gave birth to a little girl named Miracle, which obviously was the pride and joy of her life. And a lot of women know that, the judgment that comes on you when you don't have children, especially if you're married, those kind of things. A lot of people look at you as inadequate, and they have a lot of commentary and opinions. And I can just imagine, how Hannah felt all those years trying to give birth, only to finally give birth to her child, to pass away just 2 years in. The little baby was at the funeral and she was crying during the service, obviously not able to take in what was happening. It was a very emotional day. And I tried to be very thoughtful and contemplative as I'm seeing these things happen. The older we get, if we have a long life, we will experience a loss, loss of family, friends, loved ones, acquaintances, and so on and so forth. And what I always try to do, I think one of my strong suits in life is I try to be very mindful of the fact that time is fleeting. That really gets me into gear in terms of you need to pursue your goals right now. Hannah was living her life the best of her ability. I mean, I didn't know her directly. I knew her father because her father worked with my mother. And, I had seen her at events and things like that. And I didn't know her. She wasn't a close friend, but everyone who spoke about her could barely get through their commentary without crying. I was even bawling, just regarding the circumstances around the situation. And to that, I want to say, guys, listen, I have an adult audience. The majority of you guys are 30 years up. I've been here on YouTube over 10 years now, promoting members of the diaspora to check out their options, because many people are not happy with their circumstances in the Western world. Many Black people are not happy with their circumstances in the Western world. Africa is an option that we have only recently entertained or recently been made aware of what's available. But I want to tell you guys, that it's time sensitive. You know what I'm saying? Like, you don't want to keep putting off. You don't know what is ahead on the path. We can always hope and plan and try to prepare for a long life, and that we have years to pursue our goals and retirement and all these things. But at the end of the day, we don't really know when that is happening. And I think about Hannah. Her story has come to an abrupt close. But she did manage to get her dream accomplished in terms of giving birth, although she didn't get to spend a lot of time with her child. But that was a goal of hers, a big goal of hers, that she managed to achieve in that small lifetime. And you know some of you guys are putting it off. Some of you guys, this Africa exploration of Africa has been on your list so long, so many years now. If you are a viewer of mine, for instance, I came to YouTube in 2013. you know I took my first trip to Ghana in 2016. I moved here in 2020. And basically, since the beginning of my exploration in Africa, I've been promoting the diaspora to do the work. You know, we can entrust media outlets that we know are biased, educational outlets that we know are biased. We can't utilize those mediums to make a determination about what the motherland is and how it will impact us. And what I have to say, obviously, there are so many negative reports because negative goes far on social media. But there are countless diasporans who always sing the praises of the impact of connecting with the motherland and traveling to the motherland. So that's the first portion of my conversation today. Let's see what you guys are saying in the chat room. Big shout outs to the family. Yes. Please take a minute out and like the stream if you're happy to see me. You wish me a happy new year. Then yes. It's been a hectic week for me today. This past week, I had a photo shoot. Y'all like my large Bantu knots? I had a photo shoot yesterday, and this was the hairstyle. So I don't know how long we're going to have it. But yes, big shout outs, guys. Okay, let's see what you guys are saying in the chat room. Emmanuel says, my condolences to you and his family and her. What's up, Frank? I see you there. Greetings from Michigan. What's up, M. George? Yes, if you guys are in the room and want to be greeted, leave me something in the chat room so that I can greet you. So, you don't have the time that you think that you have. You don't have it. You don't have it. You need to be expeditious about pursuing whatever it is. I mean, real talk. We are growing older every day, and I think as I was at the funeral, it was a huge turnout. Her father is actually a chief. So there were a lot of tribal leaders and stuff like that came in the building. I think there was at least probably got up to at least 1,000 people at her funeral rites. It was an astounding amount of people that came out. And she's only a few years older than me. I will be 43 this year, 2026, and Hannah was 47. So I was just really ruminating over so many things that, mostly for her daughter, just thinking about a 2-year-old child losing her mother and what that means. I can't imagine doing life without my mother. I'm so fortunate to still have her to this day. And she's a tremendous blessing, in my life. And unfortunately for this little girl, although she has a very supportive family, you could tell that she has a very supportive family unit. There's nothing like having your mother and growing up with your mother. The second thing I want to say is obviously relative. There have been some claims circulating that Art Kathy, who is another content creator, controversial content creator here on YouTube, that she has passed away in Ghana apparently within the last few days. There was a report that her brother posted an official statement on Facebook. A couple people have emailed me asking me if I know. I'm not affiliated or in any contact with Art Kathy to know directly, but I'm just going to go with, the fact that her known family member has made this statement and things like that. To that, I want to say everybody's not going to have a success story in Africa. Some people are meeting challenges on their journey. Some people are meeting, tragic situations, unfortunate situations, and all of that. That's the nature of the game, guys. You know, I hate to be cold and callous about it. Um, Again, I can't, I can only speculate on the Art Kathy situation. I got made aware that she was dealing with an illness, um, probably a few months ago through you guys sending me videos of her and videos of other platforms kind of talking about the situation. She had a very large GoFundMe campaign trying to collect $80,000, and she's had previous allegations of scamming and inappropriate behavior in the past when she lived in the Gambia. So there's a lot of speculation that, was she really sick? Was it a scam? Was it a money grab? Whatever, whatever. Um, Everybody's not going to have success in the motherland. I firmly believe that a lot of this success, your future on the continent, it really, really depends on you at the end of the day. You know, it depends on how you move. It depends on, the situations you put yourself in, and even with ultra precautions and things like that, life happens. You know, I understand that when she was ill, she was trying to raise money so that she could travel back to the US, which ultimately she raised some money, not the large sum that she originally asked for, but she raised enough to go back to the States. I would say, guys, listen, common sense will tell you. You need to operate in common sense sometimes. If you start experiencing a difficult time, and let's say you're here and you have the means to maybe get to your family or get to a place where you're familiar with, or if it's healthcare, you're concerned about perhaps the healthcare in this environment compared to what you're accustomed to or whatever, operate in common sense. Operate in common sense. Don't be die hard on this journey trying to prove whatever you're trying to prove. I mean, I would tell you now, probably if I experience some type of medical crisis or something like that, I would probably want to be where my mom is, which my mom is in Ohio. If she wasn't able to come to me and I was able to travel, I probably would want to be there. I think probably, if you're in a crisis situation, a difficult situation, and you have family or friends or some type of support system, then you need to tap into that. Guys, look, in as much that a lot of us are coming to the continent and we are, passionate about our journey here and passionate about reconnecting here, you still need to operate in common sense, guys. You still need to operate in common sense. It's no need in trying to prove a point when the stakes are so high. At the end of the day, for instance, I'm here living alone in Ghana. I don't have family around. I have a cousin that comes and goes and things like that. My sister was here at a point. But, in reality, I'm here alone. So if I had to make those difficult decisions, if something was impacting my ability to live independently, or my health, my mental well-being, whatever, my finances, then that's the time you may need to go back to your home base where you're actually able to get situated and work things out. But it's very naive to think that everybody's going to have a success story here on the continent. Everybody's not. And I don't know what it is about people that when others experience, whatever comes along with this journey, it's just so mystifying. Such and such did this, such and such, passed away, such and such had this problem, such and such, yeah, it comes with the territory, perhaps on your journey. A lot of that, again, I mean, I'm someone who takes extreme accountability, okay? I have to govern what Gina does and where Gina puts herself and the decisions that Gina makes, okay? That is why I believe in my case, I haven't had a lot of hardship and drama because I'm constantly trying to make those decisions the right way. Others are taking risk. Others are taking unnecessary risk. And when you gamble like that, the stakes are high. You can either win or you can either lose. And a lot of times, the probabilities, I mean, my mom told me, and probably your parents told you, or you've heard the saying, if it seems too good to be true, a lot of times, majority of the times, it is. If you're meeting a prince or princess charming, if you've got a deal that just seems like unbelievable, these things, these are unnecessary high stakes risks that people are taking. They're taking them on a continent and they're losing. I think in a lot of situations, people just need to cool down, take some time, and analyze the situation before they get in there. That's what I think. You're in a new environment. You don't know what the hell's going on. Err on the side of caution at all times. It's not that anyone needs to be offended at or take it personal what that you are being cautious or that you're being, trying to determine the situation. Everybody's not going to have a success story here in Ghana, Nigeria, Kenya. A lot of people are going to fail. A lot of people are going to find out. What did they say? FAFO? Fool around and find out. Hello. What's up? What's up? What's up? Ebony, hi, sweetie. Big shout outs to the Buckeyes, Columbus, Ohio, in the building. M. George says, I'm 60 and I had a blood clot last year that almost took me to the other side, and I feel like my time is very limited. M. George says, everyone's not going to have a happy life in America. That's the facts, too. Jennifer Edie, hi, sweetie. Big shout outs to the family. Frank is asking me about the iShowSpeed tour in Africa. What's up? What's up? I'm different. I see you there. Big shout outs. My cousin is in the building. Thank you so much for tuning in to the African Superstar. Yes. Frank is asking me about iShowSpeed. iShowSpeed is a gentleman who I believe he goes around and he races people. And I know he's been on this world tour. I've briefly seen him through clips. I'm not a follower, subscriber, and I don't watch his content. But I have been seeing that a lot of Black Americans have been, emotional about his tour. He's currently in Africa. I did see a clip of him the other day where he found his actual lookalike in Zimbabwe. And, I'm seeing a lot of content of Black American expressing that, they were unaware that Africa was so beautiful, and, their exposure through iShowSpeed is changing their perspective of the motherland. And to that, I say, we've been telling you. We've been telling you. I even get accused here on YouTube of romanticizing Ghana, romanticizing Africa. I've legit been here, again, over 10 years on YouTube with this same consistent message. 10 years I've now been frequenting the continent. 10 years. 6 total countries. 6 years residing in an African nation. But I'm told that, African Superstar, you're not giving us the whole picture. What I have to say is, people like excuses, whatever. Okay? They don't want to listen to people that are giving a positive report about Africa. No. Maybe they're getting exposed through iShowSpeed indirectly because he's not a Pan-African creator. He's not, someone who's identifiably pro-Black or anything like that. He's more or less for everybody. He's been showing himself all around the world, and it's just a coincidence that now he's moved on to Africa and people are seeing him. Unfortunately, a lot of people coming from the Western world are very ignorant to the continent, and a lot of Black Americans, more specifically, are very, very, very confused about their origins, their history. There's a lot of conflicting information out there. There's a lot of people, that are making up stuff making up these ideologies and making up these identities because they want to estrange themselves from the continent. And I mean, it's a very definitive fact that our origins come from the motherland. I mean, even if you want to get more broad, it's assumed and understood that life itself, humanity began in Africa. So, there's that. But you have a lot of people claiming all this type of stuff. And to me, it's a lot of delusion. It's a lot of self-hate. It's a lot of confusion. It's a lot of proximity. Our people growing up in these type of environments, it's having a huge impact on their psychological well-being. Because how you as a Black person can look at other Black people and claim that you have no connection to them is crazy. How you could actually look at someone who doesn't resemble you at all and claim that that is your heritage and that is your indigenous roots and all this stuff, it's absolutely ludicrous. You know what I mean? If you as a Black person line yourself up in a I don't know, what do they call those things, a lineup. Okay, you've got a Chinese person, you've got Native American, you've got white, okay, then you've got an African person, and you are claiming connections to everybody except the person who visibly shares resemblance with you. Something is wrong with you. And for that, I would say I'm very happy that I Show Speed is resonating with some of these confused individuals who didn't realize, have been negating the facts. Because from what I understand, it's a lot of these FBA people that are getting shocked and amazed at the motherland. These FBA people, ADOS people that attack us, that have been trying to do the same thing, expose them to the motherland. They reject everything that we say because they want to hold on to what they believe in, their feelings. But now this other person is showing them the same things that we've been saying. I'll tell you about a story that I have today. Big shout out to the family. Guys, if you're here, please hit the likes. What's up? You can show also some support for your African superstar if you enjoy my platform, okay? So today, like I said, I was at Hannah's funeral. And there was this auntie, okay, an elderly Ghanaian lady who I never seen, didn't know. So I was, on the funeral grounds, and I walked nearby this auntie, and this auntie, her face lit up. She started speaking Twi to me, which I didn't understand exactly what she was saying. But there was another auntie. I could gauge from her expression. When she saw me, she was just started talking to me as in to say, oh, are you such and such's daughter? Or are you such and such, blah, blah, blah. And this other auntie was like, oh, you resemble this young lady that she knows, and I was speaking to the other auntie, and I was like, oh, I'm a family friend. I'm not related to this family. My mother knows the father of the deceased, and that's why I've come, and I know him from Ohio. And I was explaining that to the auntie. And the other auntie that was speaking Twi, she just, she didn't care what the auntie was telling her. She was convinced that I was this person that she knew. And she just embraced me, and she was smiling at me, and she was speaking Twi to me and all these things. And I thought to myself, you see, how many times have members of the diaspora had that exact same experience on a continent? Either you've seen someone who resembles you, or someone has told you that you look like some relative, some friend, some acquaintance. I mean, it has happened to me here in Ghana several times. But in general, it's happened to me hundreds of times across the world. Oh, you look like such and such. You favor this person. And ironically, all those people are other Black people. I've literally never said, hey, you look like Miley Cyrus. You look like Taylor Swift. You look like Heidi Klum. You see, so what I think, unfortunately, a lot of Western Blacks are experiencing is a psychological crisis. It has gotten to the point they don't even recognize themselves anymore. you know. And I believe that this is the product of many generations of being estranged from your homeland and being in a toxic environment. Because when you look at previous generations, okay, when you look at previous generations of Black people, there was no doubt and there was no question of connection to the African continent, period. Marcus Garvey never had any questions. Okay, during the Harlem Renaissance, these people, all of our ancestors in the Western world acknowledged their connections. Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, W.E. Du Bois. You know, countless individuals acknowledge their roots in the motherland, their connection to the motherland. How do we go from that? You know, the 90s, where hip hop was like totally Afrocentric. How do we go from that to where we are modern day, where people are saying, I have no connections to the motherland, negating DNA tests, negating history, negating everything, both verbal and written history, you know, just to hang on to this concept. Our people are suffering from a mental health, psychiatric breakdown. Okay, Frank. So that's what I think about iShowSpeed. Okay. Big shout outs to the family. Yes, yes, yes. M. George says, I believe you get back what you put out. I wish that was always the case, M. George. I wish that was the case, because there's a lot of bad people that need to get what they deserve, and there's a lot of good people that don't get that reciprocated. So, you know, it's a nice concept, but it doesn't always ring true. Frank says, I was shocked a lot of Americans thought Africa is a jungle until he showed Africa. I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised at all, because, you know, if many people can be honest, and obviously I know that my platform doesn't have a problem with this, a lot of people could be honest and say they are ignorant about Africa. You know, just to say, I don't know. I don't know what it looks like. I don't know anyone who lives there. I've never traveled there. You know, what I've seen through the media or what I have learned is limited or non-existent, and I'm ignorant. You know, and why some people think, you know, I got a message from one of my friends from Columbus who was recently in Ghana. And this young lady, I mean, you know, she probably hasn't been here in maybe at least a decade, could be longer. She recently came to Ghana and she said to me, wow, you know, Accra has really developed. And I'm thinking like, well, what do you people think is going on in Africa as the rest of the world modernizes and things like that? Like, what do you think? Do you think that, you know, the continent is just completely devoid of modernism? Like, you know, and honestly, a lot of the Ghanaian diaspora is responsible for a lot of the development here, because as they move out to the Western world, they send money back, they build properties, you know, they try to replicate certain things, and they bring a lot of that development here. And so, you know, I don't know why in this 2025 people's minds are still so limited, but I do know that exposure is huge. And I would say to those of you guys with young people in your lives, expose them to the world. You know, even if they're not fortunate enough to travel right away, you know, make them aware that their lifestyle is not the only lifestyle. And I think that's what's wrong with a lot of Westerners. You know, I can't really say, after living in Europe, I can't really say that a lot of Europeans are that ignorant about the world, because a lot of Europeans travel. You know, it's so commonplace. It's so much part of the lifestyle in Europe for them to travel. And that cuts down a lot of their ignorance about the world, you know, because they've actually traveled there and they've actually seen it. But in America, people literally have no clue about the rest of the world. They don't know what's happening in the rest of the world. You know, I had people when I moved from Ohio to England ask me, what kind of food do they have in England? What language do they speak in England? Are there any black people in England? Or assuming that there were no black people in England. You know, these type of like absurd, ludicrous things that no American should ever be. Listen, for any of you guys that don't know, okay, England is the grandmother of America. The people that actually came, you know, those colonizers and settlers, they came from England. And they brought their language and religion, hello, which is called English, to America. Okay, so there are a lot of similarities between the British and the American culture, if you don't know. And there are loads of black people in the UK. Okay, a lot of them came by way of the Windrush generation, which immediately followed the World War. Basically, England had been totally decimated by bombs. Their infrastructure was in dire straits. They went to the Caribbean and solicited people to come. A lot of them were Jamaican people. So if you've ever seen, you know, realize the connections of a lot of British Caribbean ties. That's why, because they went and solicited these people to come to England, work, and help them rebuild the country. So there's a lot of, you know, black British Caribbean connection there. Okay. Now I would say, just like in the rest of the world, just like in America, you're going to have a lot of the blacks are going to be in the city areas. Okay. The further, you know, you go out into the English countryside, obviously those areas are going to be less diverse, but that's the same thing in America. You know, you find a lot of immigrants in the cities. And as you go out into the countryside and the rural areas, you find less and less. And that's how actually those people like to live. The people in the rural areas don't like diversity. They don't want immigrants in their areas. They don't want foreigners in their areas. You know, so I've gone on a tangent. But I'm not surprised that a lot of black Americans are, you know, they have a lot of negativity surrounding the continent. And that's why, instead of thinking of it as a beautiful and marvelous place, their immediate, you know, default is something negative, something ridiculous, something outdated, something completely, you know, because for them to be online crying and being emotional that, you know, it's so beautiful, it's just like, yo, the continent is largely tropical. Like, tropical places are largely beautiful. Duh. You know, however, you know, it's I mean, are there rural areas, are there wild, you know, forests and jungles across the continent? Probably. I live in the city, I live in Accra, so I haven't seen too much jungle action here in Accra. You know, I've seen some grassy areas and stuff like that when I travel by the bus going between cities and things like that. But I mean, you know, Accra is very developed in my opinion. Um, and I really haven't really seen a lot of that in my travels across the continent. I really, you know, I haven't seen that. So I don't know, but I'm not surprised. Is it LLL thoughts? It's not new. Africa is part of the planet, and the planet is beautiful. Facts. I mean, come on. You know, the foolishness is. I mean, some of it is just like, come on, bro. What's up, ATM Tim? What's up? What's up? What's up? I'm different. Could you do more self-care vlogs? Okay. So, you know, I'll say this. I don't think that I can't say that my life is not very interesting, but my life is quite routine. I don't have a lot of, you know, new activities from day to day. My routine is very, very, very routine. You know, and my self-care includes gym, sleeping, you know, trying to live in a tropical environment. I do go to the nail salon, get my nails and feet done. I do go to the hair salon a lot when I'm in Ghana, not so much when I'm abroad, but I change my hair a lot. Like I said, I had a photo shoot yesterday. Hello. And this was the style. The pictures were, I saw some of the behind the scenes. Sick. I was, of course, with Joseph Mayer and my makeup artist, Gray MUA. And some of those behind the scenes, I mean, they're crazy. You guys are going to love my new photo shoot. It's amazing. But yeah, I'm not one of those girls that like goes to the spa and does like the charcoal mask and, puts the cucumbers on my eyes and does detoxes. I don't do all of those things. Um, but I mean, I guess I could maybe talk about the importance of these things in your life. So that is noted. Thank you for that. What's up, Saj Bridge Closet? I see you. Big shout outs to you. What's up? What's up? What's up? Yes, yes, yes. Well, Frank, I don't know where the hell you been because my hair been natural for a grip. It's been natural since like what, 2018. I haven't even relaxed my hair. I can't even tell you when the last time I relaxed my hair. It's been natural for a long time, so I don't know where the hell you've been at. But yeah, thank you for the compliments. Yes, yes, yes. Guys, back to the topic. Okay, twofold. Okay, you don't have the time that you think that you have. And number two, I know I've got four here, but number one, you don't have the time you think you have. Number two, everyone's not going to experience a success story here on the continent. Okay. And I want to also say, with the fact that everybody's not going to experience a success story, it doesn't impact you. It doesn't have to impact you. Okay. I'm a winner. So when I see people losing, I don't necessarily have that connotation. You know what I mean? I see people getting jacked up over here in Ghana, getting jacked up in Tanzania, getting jacked up. Oh, I'm leaving Ghana. Oh, I'm leaving Tanzania. Oh, the motherland this. Oh, I got scammed. Oh, he just used me for papers. I see it all the time. And it doesn't resonate with me because their story's not my story. I can take learning lessons from them, but if we're honest, a lot of the people that are failing, they have a lot of common denominators with other people that are failing. Let's just be honest. Okay? There's a saying which is birds of a feather flock together. Okay? People that lose have things in common with others that lose. People that win have things in common with people that win. Okay? People that win will see errors in what those losers are doing, and they will strategize against that. They will, model their plan a bit differently or set up contingencies or you see, but the losers will go and replicate what other losers have done. Okay? If we've seen, for instance, a person come to the continent and the reason that they have to leave Ghana in 6 months or a year is financial because they didn't count up the costs or whatever, or they came here, they overspent, or they didn't think about their streams of income. That would behoove those of you that are making your plans to the motherland to take that into consideration. Hello? Okay? You can, watch some of these people when they tell their sad stories and all this. What you should be doing is taking away from what not to do, what not to put you in that same position. I'm different. By the time I'm able to come to Ghana, I hope you'll still be doing tours. Well, time is of the essence, my friend, because look, I'm trying to do other endeavors that may occupy my time, and if that's the case, I may not be available for tours. Hello, I'm available in the meantime, in the near future. I am still offering custom tours. If you have a tentative time you want to come to Ghana, I can try to work with your schedule and we can do something, but I don't know the future, but I know that I'm very progressive, so I'm definitely trying to, continually build up my portfolio and position myself well. And there may come time that I'm not available for tours. I'm pursuing acting, I'm pursuing music, I'm investing in different things. And so, honestly, if those things yield great results, I may not be available. That's the fact. So if you want to come to Ghana and you want to tour with me, then you need to make that a priority. You need to put that up on the list that, okay, I need to, because my tours, I'm gonna tell y'all straight up, my tours are limited time only. I can't tell y'all I'm gonna be doing this 5 years, 10 years from now. I can't say that. If I become a big movie star, I'm not gonna have time to be doing tours with you. Sorry, that's the reality. Safety might be a thing. I can't be walking the streets. Who knows? With you on a tour. So take advantage of things in the opportunity time. M. George says a winner will put out winner energy and get a winner's result, and a loser will put out loser energy and get loser results back. What's up? Love to travel with Wave. I see you there. And that's the thing that I keep trying to convey to the people is, look, okay, if you're a winner, you know how to win. You've got a track record of winning. A lot of you guys are winners. A lot of you guys are successful people. A lot of you guys are resilient people. Whatever the losers do and whatever outcome the losers are having is not your business. Okay? It's not your business. Because you're moving differently. You're moving differently entirely. So, what's up, ODK Williams? ODK Williams says, how is it dealing with the locals? Because I hear a lot of people saying they have a different mindset and culture. Well, I would say that's to be expected. You're in a different location. Okay. Westerners have to understand, they're totally socialized, different, exposed, different, brought up here. Everything is different. So yes, they do have a different mentality. I would just tell you this in regards to dealing with the locals. There's a basic rule of thumb which has simplified interactions for myself, which is look for your comparable class. One thing that Westerners have a difficulty with is, seeing themselves in the local terms. Okay, so what that means, if let's say you're middle class in America, let's say, you're just working class and that's how you see yourself. In some situations, because of your exposure, because of your education, because of your income or whatever, when you translate that working class or middle class here in Africa, that's going to have you on a different level. That's going to have you on a different level. And you may see yourself, oh, I'm just working class. And, when you're trying to interact with the locals, that's how you're trying to, maybe interact with them. But in reality, you are in a different class here. And I will tell you, Africa, Ghana at least is a classist place. So is Nigeria. Different classes don't really interact with the other classes. And where a lot of diasporians go wrong is, they're basically fraternizing with people that are not on their level. And those people are going to definitely be opportunists because they see you as the big mark. The name of the game is equal or greater than. Try to associate with people that are on your comparable class. Now, you're going to have to take some time back and study your environment to know what that means. But once you figure that out, that's who you need to roll with. Okay, because I tell you guys, I roll with equal or greater than. Okay, if you are a diasporan person, you have to understand, maybe in this context, you are seen as privileged, you are seen as rich. Okay, in the same way that if you were rich or privileged in America, you might be living in that gated community, you might be sending your kids to private schools, you might be driving a certain car, there's certain parts of town you ain't going to, there's certain people you're not fraternizing with. It's the same thing here. And a lot of our people are going wrong because they're essentially fraternizing with people that are not their class. The people that are not their class know that this diasporan, or whoever should not be fraternizing with them. Let me give you an example. Okay, so I was having this conversation with this young man that I'm dating here in Ghana. And, we were talking about how let's say if you're an upper class girl here in Ghana. So let's say you come from a prominent family. There's a lot of, prominent families, politicians, musicians, high level professionals and things like that. Their children, okay, are going to fraternize with other kids in that same class. It's the same way like in the Asian world. Okay, if your dad is a CEO, or your dad is a prime minister, or your dad is, you know, the top surgeon, he has his own hospital, the kids of that individual is not going to be fraternizing with the low class. Okay, those women are going to marry from other professional families, other affluent families, and so on and so forth. Okay, you've got to take a step back and observe the environment here if you want success. Okay, since I came to Ghana, I don't really fraternize with the low classes. Okay, I live in an affluent neighborhood, and most of the people I'm associated with are even, actually, I'm not even going to say they're equal to me. I'm going to say they're greater than. Okay, these people have high level education. They own lands. They built houses. Some of them are entrepreneurs. One of my friends works for, one of the current MPs in Parliament. You know, she's like the director of his affairs. So, you know, I'm dealing with people that have it going on here in Ghana. She took me shopping a couple days ago, and anything that I expressed interest at the shop, she put it in the cart. I had to argue and fight with her and say, no, stop. You know, I would say, oh, that's a nice, you know, plate, or this, I love that perfume. And she would just add it to the cart. Took me shopping, refused to let me pay. That's how the people I'm rolling with here in Ghana be doing. So I see that a lot of diasporans are, you know, dealing with folks that are in need, people that are begging them, people that are trying to take advantage of them. Yeah, because that's who you're fraternizing with. If you are the big fish in the pond and all the other fish are little fish, obviously your presence is going to make a big ripple in the pond. Okay, but if you're with other big fish, the fact that you're there is not a big deal. These folks here, the people that I'm rolling with, they know, they probably know in the back of their mind that they're doing way better than me. That they have way more assets and everything than me. And I'm happy with that, because I don't get asked left and right for things here in Ghana. I don't. You know what I'm saying? I don't get the problems that some people are having. I just believe it's because they're fraternizing with those that are not in their class. Ghanaians have been warm and friendly to me and welcoming to me. I literally love this place, love the people. I feel so good, you know, whenever I'm home. And you know, but again, like I said, that classism piece, you've got to learn how to navigate it. That's been what's helped me avoid it. So yeah. Now I know that, for instance, some people, let me talk about the Gambia. From what I have heard, the Gambia is a country that, you know, the economy is very severely challenged, and a lot of the young people are jobless, and people are hungry. People are really looking for money. So, you know, the disparity between you from coming from the Western world and moving into that environment is going to be huge. And of course, you know, it's going to be hard for them to relate to you. I think that's why a place like Ghana attracts a lot of the diasporans, because, you know, the gap is lessened. You know, you do have people that are doing it really big here. And obviously you will have the extreme poor. You have the extreme poor everywhere. But you have a middle class, a working class here in Ghana. So, you know, that's a buffer zone. If you position yourself well, you may not have to deal with some of these problems. Like I was saying, M. George says it, most FBA have loser energy. You said it, I did it. But, you know, like I said, birds of a feather flock together. So when someone made the comment, oh, I was surprised that a lot of people think there's jungles in Africa and there's no development in Africa. I'm not surprised, because these people flock together. Okay. One thing that, like, let's say a lot of FBA have in common is they haven't been to Africa. Hello? They have very little interaction. They don't know about the continent. They're going off of hearsay. They're going off of, you know, these podcasts with Tariq Nasheed and, you know, these other negative platforms. This is what they're going off of. and they don't really know for themselves. And that's why when they're watching I Show Speed, it's so profound to them, because they've been fraternizing with other people that think like them and view the world they do, and now they're seeing a completely different view, which they could have done that on their own. They could have explored the motherland on their own and drawn their own conclusions, but no, they don't want to do that. They want to stay in their bubble and just regurgitate whatever people's telling them and whatever nonsense. So everyone's not going to have success here on the motherland, but unless you're a loser, their stories shouldn't really impact you. Okay, what you can take away from their stories is what not to do. And if you see certain common denominators among those that are losing, which a lot of them, I'll tell you right now, some of the common denominators, number one is money. Okay, a lot of members of the diaspora have not worked out their finances and how they're going to finance themselves here in Africa and all of that. Okay, I don't care where you move. There's no place in this world, on this planet, where you don't need money. And, life here in Ghana, especially Accra, the capital, is not cheap. And I don't care, again, where you are, if you are constantly spending money, but you don't have money coming in, even if you have $1 million or £1 million or, 10 million pounds or something like that, you can deplete that money. So you have people coming here with their, savings coming. I know some people came with their stipends, back in the day, what was it called? The stimulus. Some people came with that. Some people came with their PPP. Year later, 2 years later, 6 months later, they're singing the sad story. Why? Because they were constantly spending money, but they weren't thinking about how you're going to bring in money. That's the basic finance principle. Okay, a lot of diasporans, they don't figure that out before they come here, and that is a part of extreme, failure. Because if you run out of money, then we know what's going to happen. Number two, narcissism. Okay, because a lot of these losers, like I said, they're doing what the next person has done to fail. They replicate what the last person who failed did, and you're going to get what that person got. Number three, common denominator, desperation. Desperation to be loved, desperation to be accepted, desperation. If you don't know, desperation is like a fragrance, okay? And opportunists can smell it. Okay, they know when you need attention. They know when you need love. They know when whatever it may be, they can read it on you like a book. All right. And unfortunately, because of a lot of the deficits that people have experienced in the Western world, a lot of, romantic deficits. You have a lot of women that are desperate for men, have not had relationships, have not been married, whatever the case may be, have not had success. They're coming over here and they're just acting like fools. Doing things for men in this setting that they wouldn't even do in their Western setting. And again, it's like a lot of this behavior has been duplicated over and over again, and people are not getting the results that they want, yet it's being duplicated. Another common denominator, failing to understand your new home. Just like is it O.D.K. Williams? O.D.K. Williams said, how is it dealing with the locals? You are in a new setting and you need to understand that, and pay attention to that setting. Get to learn that setting. Okay, learn some of the history, maybe some of the language. Help yourself to understand your new home. A lot of diasporans are coming here and, they're still in America in their mind. And they still are functioning like that. They don't even know much about the world around them in this setting. Some of them get into other diasporan bubbles, and those are the only people that they fraternize with. They don't bother to learn the language. They don't bother to do anything with the local community. You see, I have integrated because I do those things. I know some diasporans that have been here for years. They've never even actually been to a Ghanaian funeral yet. You know, they have, although here in Ghana, there's probably hundreds of funerals that take place every single Saturday. Funerals are big, 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 big deals here in Ghana. But there's a lot of diasporians that have not tapped into some of the cultural mediums here, and it's a deficit. Because I think that showing yourself friendly has always worked for me, especially in various African settings. If for instance, you're in Ghana and funerals are a big deal to Ghanaian people, and you have Ghanaian associates or something like that, taking the time out to go to their event, taking the time out to go to their naming celebration for their child, or their funeral for their loved one, or their wedding, or their birthday party, or whatever they've invited you to, that speaks volumes. And then that instance will also be reciprocated. When it's your turn, they too will give back to you, because you have shown yourself. When I went to the funeral today, for instance, Mr. John was so happy to see me. He's a chief, and he got up from his table and asked one of his friends to take a picture of us together so that I can send it to my mom. And the other people sitting around were looking like, who is this girl? Because the chief got up to greet me, but he was so touched that I took time out to come to his daughter's funeral, and it took most of my day up, you know what I'm saying? I mean, shout out to my Ghanafo. If you know, because I went to the church, and then I went to the funeral rites at the burial grounds. And, but seeing that, he was really, really gracious that I came. But that's part of community. Ghanaian people have given so much to me. Ghanaian people have embraced me so much. I posted on my Facebook that my love of Ghana started way back in Columbus, Ohio. The Ghanaian people that began to expose me to the culture and include me in their environment is part of the reasons why I'm here today, because it was so touching to me to be embraced like that. And they were the first people that ever showed me that love. You know what I'm saying? I reciprocate that back. And I was, I told you guys I was having a myriad of thoughts. And I just thought to myself, it's so amazing. It's so amazing that a friendship that I formed my first year of university back in 2001 with my bestie, Kofi. It's so amazing that at that time I was ignorant to the motherland. I didn't know a lot about Ghanaian people and their cultures and all that stuff. It's so remarkable that now, I'm here living in Ghana, and I'm able to actually be a part of these things. Be a part of these things, feel comfortable, be knowledgeable, like it's remarkable. But it's a each one teach one thing. And I think that for Westerners that really want success here on the continent, learning those elements of communal living is going to go a long way, because unfortunately, in the setting that we grow up in the Western world, we live in a very individual world. So it's like, well, I just got to do me, and I'm the focal point in things like that. And we don't always make time for other people, and we don't always care about their events and their things like that. And that's why, again, we're so individual. Here people, I'm telling you, like 1,000 people came out for Hannah's funeral. A lot of them may not even have known her. Some of them came for the father. Some of them came for the husband. Some of them knew somebody. Somebody heard about it. And all these people are interconnected because they know someone who knows someone who knows someone, and they, came out to show solidarity. And it was really, really an astonishing thing. Albeit sad, but whenever events happen in Ghana, it's just, the amount of people that come out for weddings, funerals, baby namings, it's like it will blow your mind, because in America it will be hard for you to sometimes to get 10 people together on the same, out here hundreds of people come for events, and it's really, really fascinating. And actually, I didn't see one white person today. quite frankly. I did not see one white person, not one at the church, not one at the funeral rites. Everybody was black. Everyone was Ghanaian, African, you know what I'm saying, that I saw. So it's really, really a profound experience. But again, like I said, some diasporians, they're missing out on those things because even though they're here living in Ghana, they haven't tapped in, you know. And I think, I mean, if you make some associates in Ghana, it's only a matter of time before you're going to go to somebody's funeral, wedding, baby shower. You know, take that time out and go. And it is also interesting to watch people watch. You know, you get to see the chiefs or sometimes the kings come, and it's very, very interesting. So yeah, anyway. Frank says my energy in Ghana is very strong. Yes, I know. I feel so much better when I'm here. What's up, Tony Africa? What's up? What's up? Frank says here in Germany, if you don't have a job, you can't survive. Plan before you travel. Absolutely. Absolutely. Frank says integration is very important. Every country you find yourself, it's necessary. And again, we understand it when it comes to other countries. We understand, you know. I see a lot of black people, they have this like affinity towards these Asian cultures. You know, you have a lot of black people, they're into anime, you know, they're into the Chinese characters. Back in the 90s, they used to get these Chinese characters tattooed on them, and, you know, the dragon and Bruce Lee and Kung Fu and all. You know, we have a lot of black people that are into that stuff. Or into K-pop. You know, they're into the Korean entertainment scene or whatever it is. And these people will immerse themselves in that culture, you know, leading up to maybe their eventual move or their eventual trip. If you want success in Africa, do the same thing. Okay, you want success in Nigeria, go all in. Learn the music. Learn Yoruba, learn Igbo. You know, or whichever tribe you're interested in or location you're into, start studying those folks and how they do things. Get an associate. You know, I've literally never met a Ghanaian in my life who says, you can't come to my party. You can't come to my event. You know, and kind of shun you out when you are trying, you know, when you're inquisitive. You know, I have people that have literally become my teachers and taught me things. And when I ask questions, you know, yesterday after my photo shoot, I spent a little bit of time with my makeup artist who I love, who's a dear friend. So after our shoot, you know, we went out to my favorite tilapia joint and we had a meal. And he was explaining to me akpteshi, which is like a bitters drink here in Ghana. And he was expressing to me like the history of that and, you know, teaching me things about it I never knew. You know, he was like, well, you know, do you know the meaning of akpteshi? And I was like, no, you know, what did, and you know, I was guessing. I was like, well, what does it mean? You know, alcohol doesn't mean strong, whatever, because it's a drink that they soak in bitters, herbs, and stuff like that. It's a very, very strong alcohol. And so he taught me, you know, that back in the days, in the colonial days, they made this drink illegal because they wanted to sell, the British wanted to sell their whiskeys and their alcohol and all that stuff. And akpteshi was, you know, it was cheaper and it was stronger, and people preferred that over the European brands. So they made akpteshi illegal. And the meaning of it means drink and hide. So basically it was kind of like, you know, bootleg pretty much. And, you know, I was so intrigued by this story. I was just like, wow, you know what I mean? And these are some of the things that I've learned because of my relationships with Ghanaian people that have added depth to my experience here, because I feel more one with Ghana and the people. And I know that history that Ghanaians know about their past, you know, and their figures and, you know, things like that. So I think that honestly, if you want to make you want to have success here, integration is one of the common denominators between those of us that are experiencing success on a continent. You know, those that are having failure, they struggle with it. Either they're fraternizing with people that are not their class, and that's going to create a vacuum in itself. Because, like I said, if you're a big fish in a pond, you have some diasporans coming to, Africa, going and living in these rural villages and stuff like that. And I'm thinking to myself, ooh, this is risky, because you are coming, they're going to perceive you as rich in that setting. Okay, it's not like you're moving to the gated communities, or you're moving to the penthouse apartments, or you're moving to certain towns, parts of town where the affluent Ghanaian people live, or the affluent Nigerian people live. You're going to go live in a village. Nothing wrong with village living, but in terms of class, that may not be the best environment for you. Number two, you don't know the language, you don't know the culture. Another danger. So some of our people are positioning themselves to lose right then and there. Me personally, I would never go live in the village. I'm sorry. I would never go live in the village. I know that the disparity is going to be too big. What's up? What's up? It's giving complicity. Hi, Kim. Happy New Year, sweetie. Good to see you. I see the family in the building. Yes, I'm going to be wrapping up soon. Superstar Bella. Hi, sweetheart. Representing our mission statement. Superstar Bella, I think you're the first one of 2026 to put SMP in the chat. So big shout out to Superstar Bella. SMP stands for the mission statement of this platform: strategy, maturity, and patience. So big shout out to Superstar Bella for that. Yes. Everybody's not going to have success on the continent, but there are some specific things that the losers are doing, and there are some specific things that the winners are doing. Okay, do not listen to, if you claim to be a winner, if you think that you can win, you don't need to be hanging on every word of the losers. You don't. Okay, because birds of a feather flock together. Okay, I have heard the stories over and over again. A lot of you guys have sent them to me, of people that are losing here in the motherland, and I just keep on pushing. I just keep on trucking. Okay, 6 years now down in Ghana. Looking forward to my first decade here in the motherland. My goals are now to live abroad longer than I lived in America. Okay, so I lived in America over 30-something years. All right, so we pushing up on this. I moved abroad in 2017, so next year will be my first decade abroad. Hello. But I'm looking forward to my first decade in Ghana and continued time abroad. These are my goals. So I'm not worried about the losers. Whatever they're doing, that's their business. People always telling me what's happening in Ghana, and I'm like, I hear you though, but for me, my experience is different. You know what I'm saying? I'm happy. I'm happy here. I'm winning. I don't have these sob stories. Sometimes I just look at the stories and I'm just like, people are abandoning all their common sense when they come to the motherland, and it's insane. And is it really a scam, guys, when you put yourself in precarious situations, and what would happen does happen? Is that a scam? You got to ask yourself. Okay, when you put yourself in precarious situations, so that means you had some knowledge about something. Okay, so like these days, these ladies claiming to get romance scammed, a lot of them, it's not a scam. Okay, a lot of it is, because the truth is, if you want to get down to it, what's happening is two opportunists are meeting in the middle. Okay, the Western woman has her interests. Okay, usually she wants love, affection, sex, marriage, kids, or all the above, or some of them. All right, and then this individual that she's fraternizing with wants money, travel documents. That's usually what they want. Okay, so you have the meeting of two opportunists. And what happens is when that opportunist gets his agenda across or her agenda across, she don't have no need for you no more. And this opportunist feels slighted because they're no longer getting what they wanted out of the deal. You see, so I don't really even regard that stuff a lot of time as a scam. A scam is when you are oblivious of something or you've been deceived. Okay? If men are asking you for money, it's a red flag. I don't care if he's in Panama or he's in New York City. But maybe it's just the way I'm brought up. Because my daddy told me if a man respects you, he will go through hell and high water before he asks you for any money or anything. He wants, if a man loves you, you know, and I mean, hey, again, I'm old school. My daddy said a man always wants to appear as a man to you. He never wants to look weak to you. He always wants to look like a leader to you. He always wants to seem like he has it under control. Coming to you with his woes and money problems and this and that and the other is the last thing he's going to do. And that's the same thing for African men. If they are bringing their woes to you or they need money or they're telling you your problems, they don't care about you, girl. Because among their own women, they want to be seen as the man. To their mothers and to their sisters and to whoever, they want to be seen as a man. He's coming to you like that, it's a red flag. So, you know, a lot of these black women from the diaspora, they are seeing these red flags and they're going on headfirst into it. Is that a scam? Is that a scam? That's not a scam. You knew what you were doing. You took that risk. You might have even felt that something was wrong, but you were like, you know, maybe he just needs a little bit of help. He just, you know, he's a good guy. And, you know, and enjoying the attention and the sex and, the, you know, whatever he's giving you. So you use that as a justification. But is that really a scam? That's not a scam. It's giving complicity says it's survival. George says, I'm looking in the Cape Coast area close to the Pan-African village. I would like a homestead there. Good luck to you. Good luck to you. All right, family. Anybody else with comments? I'm wrapping up. Everybody's not going to have a success story in Africa. That's just the truth. Okay? And time is of the essence. You know, rest in peace to Miss Hannah. And my condolences to her family. If any of them find this video, you know, her funeral was a tremendous display of her life. You know, people had so many fond things to say about her, but it was a poignant reminder to the living that time is of the essence. You know, none of us would look at our lives at age 47 and say, okay, that's the end. You know, at least a lot of us are going to at least calculate that we're going to be at least 60, 70 years old before we meet our end. So 47 is quite abrupt, especially when you have a 2-year-old baby girl, you know. So again, just like what I'm telling you, I'm always trying to take pointers from people that have come before me, you know, people that have experienced certain things or people that have won or lost or whatever. I'm always looking at those situations, trying to calibrate how I can move to the optimal way. And so if you have plans coming to the motherland, time is of the essence. Stop wasting time. Stop wasting time. It's unacceptable if this is what you really want to do. Because if you've been watching me for several years, you've already had plenty of opportunities. I've been offering tours now for the past 3-4 years now. And a lot of people are offering tours in other locations. You know, I say if you can get, you know, maybe $2,000 together, that could cover your airfare. I mean, some of these tour prices are a bit more expensive. You know, my tours are ranging anywhere between $3,500 and up for the hotel. You know, just depending on duration. I've done tours from 7 to 10 days. Multiple cities. It just depends on everything. that is encompassed, but usually starting around 3,000, 3,005. So if you can get 2,000 together to get started with your trip to Africa, there you go. Some locations are going to be more inexpensive. Ghana is an expensive place to come. Lodging, airfare, all that stuff is expensive. You can get deals going to other African nations. I mean, I know Matrell on a mission. She does tours in Egypt. Personally, when I went to Egypt, it was inexpensive in my opinion. Um, and definitely probably some of the less popular countries, you're going to be able to get them affordably. But if the motherland is your dream, stop wasting time. That's the moral of the story. Stop wasting time. You don't know how much time you have left. I'm telling you, Hannah came to Ghana on a visit and she passed away while she was here in Ghana. And that's the end at 47 years. So you don't really know what's coming. I'm pretty sure she had no idea that her demise was coming to meet her at 47 years old. So that's today's message. Big shouts. M. George says, I will be there in May. Good for you. You're always welcome to Ghana. Yes, family. Big shout outs to the African Superstar family. We've had so many of you guys here and the likes are up to par. Yes, thank you. If you've enjoyed this content but you're not yet subscribed, please do subscribe because we're going to grow the channel this year and you can be part of that growth. And as always, I want to promote you guys to win, to be winners here, to consider your options. Yes, there are problems here, and yes, blah 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 blah, but again, just like M. George says, I still believe Africa is the answer for a lot of us here in America. I firmly agree with that statement. Coming to the motherland is a complete game changer for me. Complete game changer. I'm so happy here. I was telling that to shout outs to Miss Alice if she sees this. Miss Alice is a lady that I met from Houston at the funeral today. And she and I were just having a chit chat and all this stuff. And, she was obviously so curious. She's like, wow, so you live in Ghana? We were got into the conversation and I told her, I said, I love it here. You know what I'm saying? Like, I love Ghana. I love Ghana. I love Ghana. Love it. Been in love with the country for a long time. Been in love with the people, the vibes, the food, everything. And I always attribute people showed me so much love and warmth back in Columbus. The Ghanaian community in Columbus is really big. Shout outs to my Ghana folk representing from Ohio. Yes. They showed so much love that it made me, curious about Ghana. It made me want to travel here. It made me want to see more because I saw them as an extension of Ghana. And it truly has been an extension. I mean, living here has been totally amplified compared to what I experienced in the motherland. What I experienced in Ohio. Coming to Ghana has been amplified, and it's just, I just love it so much. Superstar Bella, yeah, the website is down at the moment. Yes, I know. But when it comes back, I will definitely let you know when we get the website going. It's definitely in the works. It was supposed to be back up tentatively in 2025, but hey, things was not going on schedule. But we're back on track, so stay tuned for that, Superstar Bella. Yes, I'm definitely going to bring back AfricanSuperstar.com and the merch and all those things. I want to add some new things to my website as well. Yes, so under construction, but yes, we'll be back. Okay, we'll be back like what's his name? Arnold Schwarzenegger. All right, family. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed our time together tonight. Yes. If you guys are seeing a playback, make sure you leave your comments below. Much love to the family. I appreciate you guys. Also, in other news, if you guys are trying to utilize my Cash App is down. They send me an email that I need to verify something, and then when I try to go into the email and verify, it keeps giving me error message. So I'll be going to the U.S. soon. I'll try to sort it out when I'm in America. And, but for now, if you guys are looking to send me any gifts or donations through Cash App, just use other means. I have Zelle, I have PayPal, I have Momo. So, or you can do super chats here on the channel. I don't know what's up with the Cash App for now. Okay? All right, family. Until we meet again, stay black and true. If you ain't black, just stay true.